We welcome our guy, Richard Davenport, into the program. Richard, we had a question about the Arkansas wide receiver room in hour number 2, the addition of Matt Landers. What is Arkansas getting in the 6'5", 200-pound transfer from Toledo in Georgia?
I mean, come on, when you're a quarterback and you're able to throw to a guy as big as him and as length as him, I mean, your accuracy goes up very easily just because of you could be a little off, and he can kind of bail you out just because of his length and his size. So you get that, and then you get a guy that can stretch the field. At least he did at Toledo. Out of 20 catches, he had 5 touchdowns. So basically, one every 4 catches was a touchdown. And so I think he's a great addition. It obviously gives you that much-needed size, especially in the red zone. But it appears that he can stretch the field. I guess we'll see if he can do it on the SEC level. He did it on the MAC level. So I think Arkansas did very well there, and he was obviously very well regarded coming out of high school because he played at Georgia a couple years, and I think that really played a role in him being a Razorback because there was like 4, 5, 6 people that he was familiar with that used to be at Georgia, obviously with Coach Pittman, Coach Fountain, but you got the others too that were in Athens when he was there. So I think he just had a comfort factor there. But I think they really did well with the one receiver that they were looking for in the portal.
They still got one scholarship open, at least right now. Sam Pittman has harped on defensive linemen, specifically interior. Richard, there's been someone or a couple that you've been alerted to that they seem to be really scouting and looking at on the defensive line?
Well, the JC defensive lineman, second team All-American, Taylor Lewis from College of the Canyons in California. He's visiting Oregon State this weekend. I expect him to visit Arkansas next weekend. Nothing official. I mean, not next weekend, but next week. I think next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Nothing official on that from him yet, but I think it's trending that way. 6'3", 295. Nebraska's involved too. It sounds like Arkansas, Nebraska, Oregon State, and Missouri's trying to get in there too. He's trying to obviously make his visits and make a decision so he can get on campus at the end of the month. And so obviously he's a major target there. And and in talking to him, he really likes Deke Adams. I mean, he really talks very highly of him about how he just feels like he's being recruited, but he's not being pushed to be a Razorback, and he really appreciates that.
Richard, walk us through the summer, because I know camp season comes up, and a lot of times, with these camps, you think about it's just a fun time for parents to spend a few $100s and the kids go hang out at campus and see the coaches, but it's also a great time to start relationships and then continue relationships in that recruiting process. So what does the summer look like coming up? Because I know there will be a lot of camps coming up and a chance for players to showcase themselves in front of coaches.
Yeah, June's going to be full blast. It always is, not only for football but also basketball as far as visitors, official visitors, unofficial visitors. But the coaches will go to 3 different satellite camps, I think, early part of June. Let's see, Houston, Atlanta area, and I'm trying to remember the third, but Sam told me when he was down here talking at the FCA banquet. I'm trying to remember the third, but anyway, they'll do 3 satellite camps, and then they'll focus on campus camps and have a ton of official visitors. Already got, I'm guessing about 8 or 7 guys confirmed coming in for official visits, and that's going to continue to grow. But with the camps and everything, kids really like going to the camps, even if they're not participating. They like going to the camps just to watch the coaches interact with the players and see how they coach. And that, if you're if you're a receiver guy, you want to see Kenny Guyton, see how he coaches, some of the techniques, some of the fundamentals that he uses, and see if you can pick up some things, and see if you feel comfortable being coached by him. That's something that kids really comment on a lot about attending camps, whether they participate in a camp or just visiting, just watching. So and June will be very, very busy. Come July, the coaches will be able to take some time off and relax. But June is always jam packed.
And I know it's a good time for these kids because they're coming through spring practice, which is still relatively new in Arkansas. Maybe a little more than a decade old. High schools are finishing up their spring, so players will be a little more acclimated, I guess is what I'm trying to say, as they head to these camps, Richard.
Yeah, definitely, because like you said, with the spring and some of the temperatures that they've been practicing in, I was talking to a coach in Texas, and it was like in the mid 90s last week, and I mean that's July type weather. So if you go through that, you should be able to go through that, in June, whatever you go through at a college camp. But the kids are being able to go through spring practice is really huge. And some Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, still doesn't have spring practice. So kids coming from Missouri, they participate in a camp. It'd be a little bit of an adjustment.
Talking with Richard Davenport, a little recruiting this morning. Richard, I know your recent piece was on, you're going to have to help me with this guy's last name, 5-star Charles Jagsa. Is that how you say his name?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know 100%. I haven't even asked him, which is foolish on my part. I usually ask kids with unusual names how to pronounce it. I didn't ask him. I talked to him, matter of fact, last night and didn't even ask him. So we'll go with what you said, but he's a 5-star offensive tackle from Illinois who visited Arkansas for the Missouri game. 6'6", about 6'7", about 300. Number one offensive tackle in the country according to On3 Sports, and number 7 overall. So he's a top 10 prospect. Everybody's always asking when's Arkansas maybe going to land an out-of-state 5-star prospect. Well, he's a possibility because he's coming in for an official visit in June. He's going to visit Michigan, Notre Dame, and Missouri, and I forgot the 5th one that he mentioned last night. But you got to give a lot of credit to Coach Pittman and Coach Kennedy for that. I mean, obviously he's an elite prospect when he's a 5-star, and he's going to visit Arkansas again. And he's only been on campus one other time, which is quite impressive to me. That just says that they've been able to communicate to him and be able to sell him on the program. And he really likes it. Coach Pittman is a former O-line coach, and he likes to smash in mouth.
Is that just the easiest answer, that Arkansas's first out-of-state recruit in a while that's a 5-star is going to be an offensive lineman? Is there any foreseeable other position group that would be the first one before an offensive lineman, Richard?
That's a good question. I think they may have a possibility in the 24 class. Colin Simmons from Duncanville, Texas. He's supposed to be the number one linebacker in the country. In the 24 class, he's visited Arkansas a couple of times. Teammate Jordan Crook is on campus, so that really helps. He really looks up to Jordan, and so he's a possibility. If they don't get Charles, he's a possibility for the 24 class.
Yeah, Richard, can't get out of here without talking a little bit about basketball recruiting and roster change and all of those things that are going on, because basketball a little bit quiet right now. I guess the number one news is Jalen Williams and what happens with him. What do you see transpiring with a full roster? There's one more player than there are chairs. What happens here over the next couple of weeks with Jalen and this roster, and are we done with any movement there?
Yeah, they're done. They're done. They're just waiting on Jalen. I think if you ask most people, they think Jalen's probably going to stick and stay with the NBA and start his professional career. But who knows? It just depends on how the combine goes for him. If he tanks in the combine, I guess there's a possibility of him coming back, but I don't anticipate that. As far as him tanking in the combine, so I think they're pretty much wrapped up as far as the roster. Now, if some way he does come back, obviously you got to start looking at the roster and being a little creative and knowing Coach Muss and his creativity and him thinking outside the box. They'll figure out a way to make room for him, obviously.
Yeah. Richard, good stuff. We'll talk to you next Thursday on our next Recruiting Thursday.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys.
All right, Richard Davenport with us here on Recruiting Thursday in the morning.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.